So I didn't see much. So that's what zoning and that requires more public knowledge. Newspaper.
Bureaucratic. You're 3 for 3. That's
So which is not a bad thing, but they have also been public, they don't know it's to make sure that you know. That's, this all of this is whether they want to win or the other meeting. It worked.
I don't think it's supposed to.
It's good. It's rolling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I'll pass it along.
4 years. Very. How is you?
Alrighty. We're gonna go with it. Call the planning committee. Order petitions of items on non-agenda items. Okay, number 2, annexations. Deer Ridge. You want to know the date?
Sure. We'll tag team it together. We've both been working on it, with going with multiple meetings. Where we're at with the Deer Ridge development is we're in the process of the preliminary plat. We took it to Planning Commission, the last meeting, favorable recommendation. They had a few ideas that we're going to take to Public Works next, and then back to this group. But I wanted the Public Works to the foreman to chime in on some thoughts before I took it to this group next. So development stage, that's where we're at. Things are going well. Annexation, Roberta did the paperwork. She submitted it to Tony, our attorney. He looked at it, gave his blessing. This one's a very cut dry annexation. Obviously it's contiguous, and they did not ask for any exemptions. No zoning exemptions. A very clean cut plan. R3, just as its neighbor with Natalie Estates. Density, everything looks good for the lots, and just looking for the blessing of this group. Any questions?
So,
We've looked at the layout and everything else before, so that's fine. It hasn't changed, correct?
It has not yet, no.
Okay. Do you foresee it changing?
There could be a possibility that with the Planning Commission, one of their thoughts was some type of connection to Legacy, either a shared use path, or they did kick around a street, not a straight through street, but maybe taking it a little bit of a bend to avoid that speeding through, going east and west. So I wanted to take that to Public Works, mull that over, and then come back to this group and really move forward with that. Matt Patterson, he wasn't opposed.
No, he was not. He's been open to all suggestions.
He's been very open to suggestions. So we will mull this over, and I think Planning Commission does have a valid point. They really want to see that.
They really want the all-purpose trail, at least, so that the kids aren't walking around. Eventually, they can cut through the subdivision to get to school and have a safer pathway than walking the Hamacher. So they were really adamant about that.
You'll bring it back to us on that? Okay.
Yep.
Right. So we get annexed, assuming, and then.
So
We're gonna approve changes.
A final plat.
Right, so the annexation,
Preliminary.
right, annexation is what it is. You know, we could still make all the changes we want on this preliminary plat, so, yes, sir.
Common area, is there any common area?
Nope. Just as we've been doing it, all the homeowners own a piece of the prize. So,
Good.
yep. The only exception has been Remlock. With the strong HOA, we've been having a few spots that a few of the lakes have been owned by HOA. So, but every other development has been owned by the property owners.
So this is just basically what you showed us before, other than the walking path.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a big, unknown as of right now. You know, we have to work through all the utilities and
You're just bringing this to our attention.
just so everyone has their historical background of what we're doing. Yeah.
Here, of course, it's back there.
Yeah, sorry, Tracy Parati. I am a current resident of Natalie Estates at 431 Hayden Drive. Terry is also a member of Natalie Estates. As the neighboring subdivision, I realize this is an initial meeting to get the parcel of land incorporated into the city, but there are a number of concerns from the neighborhood regarding ingress and egress to and from the subdivision, and addition safety concerns that we already have in our subdivision with the neighboring school, as well as lighting in our subdivision. We just feel that Matt, while he's a good builder and his team has been doing a good job in that regard, there are things in the subdivision as a whole that, now that it's realized in 2 phases, could be addressed better. Night lighting, safety for the residents as far as speeding and cross-through traffic from the school during high times, and related ingress and egress to the new part of the subdivision, which currently has its plan. And we haven't seen a great amount of detail, but right now their only ingress and egress from its own individual subdivision. It's out on to Rogers Avenue, and the rest of it comes through our subdivision, and it creates an additional concern because we have that's 60 additional lots that will be impacted, additional traffic that comes through our subdivision. There's a mailbox that already is a congestion pattern during high, mail times or evening times, that if you're gonna add another 45 cars that go through there, that's gonna create possible triggers for injury or hazard, because you're coming around a curve as you come in off of Hammocker. You come around a curve, people stop and back up in their driveways to access their mail, and then right another 2 lots down is where you would access this new subdivision. And so just the amount of traffic that would come in and out of there without a secondary access point out of their subdivision is a concern. Did I miss anything? And then, our subdivision in general, it'd be nice to make sure that before you give them access to another subdivision, things like subdivision signage, the culvert that we have that comes from the creek is properly addressed as far as drainage and runoff concerns. There's some ditching that has created some holes in that, and that's just a matter of, is it the city's concern? Is it the developer's concern? Who's going to fix those issues so that we don't have a problem from children falling into a ravine or a new ditch that's been created, those sorts of things. A variety of concerns. So I guess, we know this is just inducting the piece of land into the city, if you can give us any insight on when future meetings for voicing our concerns as a bigger group would be available, that would be a great thing to know.
Well, all the meetings are posted, that's for sure.
Well, yes, but for instance, I didn't know, none of us knew about this meeting until it was on Facebook this morning, so it's kind of like the amount of time that's given is drastically shortened. And I know, for instance, if it's going to go to zoning, which I assume, even though you're saying it's going to come in under R3 and it's currently farmland, I would assume it still has to go to zoning to be fully recognized. Is that correct? No. See, so it wouldn't go like like the gas station, it wouldn't be posted in the newspaper a week ahead of time of the meeting so that we would know to attend. So broadcasting the information better to the community or the neighboring communities would be nice. I think that the neighboring community across Hammocker would also probably be interested as far as congestion of just traffic going in and out of the intersection, because it is close to the overall intersection of Rogers and Hammocker, which during school times and other times it gets congested, so.
Hey, Nathan, this going back to planning again, when it gets farther along?
No. Planning commission or planning committee?
Planning commission.
Yeah, commission we're done with.
You're done.
Yep, planning committee, yes, like I said,
So it'll just all be with us.
that's the preliminary plat stage. We'll come back to planning committee.
So we could put it online on Facebook.
Well, we could also just get our email.
Yeah, I'll grab their.
We can just email
Yeah,
you.
that'd be great. And we have a neighborhood group, so we will broadcast it to the greater neighborhood in advance. But just knowing, like, for instance, the meeting on the 10th, just like, oh, it's on the planning meeting, but none of us knew that it was happening until the 10th. And I was out of the country and, just, hitting people organized enough to know that it's happening so that we can voice our concerns.
Yeah, if you stay after, I'll grab your information
Great.
and
And
then,
I know a number of us have reached out to Roberta via email as
There's a lot of
well.
those
So
emails on to Public Works and to Nate as well.
I assume that those are getting,
Yeah.
reported in.
but if you want, I can address some of these, if
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
you're okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so Roberta did some research, I did some research today. Just to kind of put things in perspective, this isn't the first time we looked at density as a whole in subdivision. I think it was the sketch plat for planning commission. We pulled up some numbers to see about access points of subdivisions. So Natalie Estates, we're looking at about, with both phases, about 60 houses, 2 access points, okay? Deer Ridge, 67 houses, 1 new access point. That makes 3 access points. We're looking at about 127 lots, okay? 3 access points. Just not in any particular order, but Vanderbrook with Stonefield, that's 150 houses, 1 access point. Okay, Silver Creek, 130 houses, 1 access point. North Winds, 100 houses, 2 access points. Quail Ridge, 120, with two access points. West Fallen Lake, 86 with 1 access point. Remlock, 100 with 2. So kind of put things in perspective a little bit. Like I said, we mulled it over with Planning Commission. They were satisfied with that.
Sure. And my concerns are, one, where are those subdivisions in relationship to public buildings, like the school, for instance, and bigger intersections in general? A lot of them I don't know where all those subdivisions are. Maybe they're across the road, I'm not sure, but, just general overall intersection, traffic. And then, for instance, if we have our own HOA, Natalie Estates, the new subdivision will have its own HOA, but as far as, repairs to the streets, everything else, if those folks are all using our secondary access point into their subdivision, who's in charge of taking care of the roads and the infrastructure and everything that's getting the additional wear and tear when you have another user?
Yeah, the city,
Of equal size or bigger, so.
the city takes over after 2 years after the final plat.
Okay.
So that's city infrastructure at that point, so, yeah. A couple other things, you brought up the cluster of mailboxes. The post office, they're the ones that made that change, it wasn't the city.
Sure.
So I would assume the new subdivision will have its own cluster wherever the developer chooses, deemed
And I'm not
appropriate.
opposed to the clustered mailboxes. It's across the street from my house, and I just see the amount of traffic that one crosses back and forth, stops on either side of the road, and then also uses some of the residents' driveways to back up and pull on through. And so I can just see if there's another 20 cars at 5 o'clock that are coming through there, there's bound to be an accident or a pedestrian hazard of some sort.
Why don't we make sure the new development has its own cluster and its own
Well, not just
development?
that, just the traffic in general, you know, when you get another 20, 30
Yeah.
cars coming through there.
Good call.
As far as the cluster for the post office, those boxes are supposed to be located at the new point of the subdivision.
I can't, what was that?
So the new cluster boxes, whenever there's a plat done, if there's an existing plat, that box is set on that actual
And
plat.
It's
So
more of
R2 will have its own, R3 will have its own, because we help the post office set those.
and it's more or less how it is. There's an initial one off of Hamlacker, that is, or excuse me, Rogers, that's right at phase 1, and then the secondary one is right where the phase 2 begins. So in theory, that is accurate as it is now.
You brought up the lighting. The city puts up the light poles at the city's expense. I believe we do every other transformer. I'd have to double check that.
Okay, there
So-
are two, I mean, drive through this subdivision at night. There are some very, very dark areas at nighttime that you go, oh, people don't have dusk to dawn lights. And kids are out, this is an issue, so.
I would assume our line crew puts them as they've been doing for all the subdivisions the same. We have to put them where there's a transformer
Sure.
box. We pull a whip out and go right up to the light
There's a transfer
fixture.
every other property, so it
There's a
shouldn't be a
transfer.
problem with adding one.
Right, there's a transformer every other property.
Yeah.
So I think we skipped a transformer on
Okay.
light poles, but I'd have to look.
It might be something to further, not that I want
So-
to not enjoy the stars, I just want the children that are driving their bikes around to be safe.
Right, so
To do that.
you probably won't see one at an entrance to a subdivision because there's no transformer box there to pull the electric.
Yeah, they're not in entrances, they're in two corners that are, and especially where this new subdivision, so they're gonna go, it's dark. In nighttime, dark.
You brought up signage. A subdivision signage is not a requirement.
Okay,
If a developer does it, there are stipulations of what type, size, those things. But that's not a requirement.
the other thing I would just suggest as a general citywide thing that you guys consider thinking about in the future is trees. This is our development's previous farmland, the new development is previous farmland. Trees only benefit your community, providing oxygen, prevent erosion, do all of those things. Requiring the developer to provide trees, windbreaks, those sort of things would help drastically. We sit in one of the highest positions of the whole city of Waterloo, and the wind impact over the farmland, when our house has been developed in the last year, while there's still not houses neighboring, has been quite huge. You know, impacts of 40-mile-an-hour winds, rains, things like that, that if they required tree breaks or anything, even up the street, would help greatly.
So landscape breaks like that are only required when you go from residential to commercial properties, right, Roberta?
Yes.
So for an example would be, it's actually on line item 3, but between the residential and the commercial, you'll see a row of trees. It's a tricky thing because when we're trying to put utilities in and trees are in the ways during the initial development, it can be pretty difficult. But we're not stopping a homeowner to put trees up, you know?
No.
So,
We have, all three of us have put in ample amount of trees.
Any other questions? Did they okay?
Yeah, like that or email.
I'm not sure what what's a culvert where?
Sir, you came out and inspected it and showed me where the hole was in the culvert behind my house where it had washed out. Now, Matt did come in there and he did pour dirt over the top of it to cover up the hole. However, the hole is still at the bottom of the culvert, which was put in, and it was put in wrong, as you pointed out when you brought your camera out and showed me the hole at the bottom of the culvert.
Oh, the one this big?
Yeah, the one that's washed it all out.
Okay,
And we've asked for that to be fixed.
okay.
And I don't know where that stands. The last I heard, it was going back and forth between the city and whoever was gonna fix it. It's not a big fix. We're talking maybe $200 for the material to put in there,
Sure.
but I don't want it to wash out. We've already had one kid fall into the hole when it got washed out, and we're trying to prevent that from the other day. And the only other thing that I will add to all of the traffic concern is I called the city, and the city, actually Jordan help me get some speed limit signs put up in front of my house, right around the corner that we're talking about. We clocked a kid going down the street the other day at 60 miles an hour.
Well, the sign clocked it.
Where the sign
I saw it.
clocked it. I didn't clock it, the sign did. And we consistently get people going 45 to 50 miles an hour through there. And I understand why, because people are cutting through to try to get around from the schools and the other thing. I personally, I'm 75 years old, they're not gonna hit me, because I'm not gonna be out in the middle of the street. But we have kids out in the middle of that street all night. And my neighbor's son had just happened to be very close to the corner when this kid took the corner. So we're very concerned about the traffic and how we're gonna take care of that.
We asked the police department to
I know
put
that,
extra
and I've
cars
seen,
on.
I've seen the presence, and I appreciate everything everybody's already done, but it's not really slowing it down because the police obviously can't be there all the time. And the problem is, it's gonna get worse with another subdivision behind us when people are late, or their kids, or they have teenagers, or whatever. I was a teenager, I spent when I was a teenager too, and I get it. I'm not saying that, but the concern is valid for us, and I don't want, what is one kid's life worth? That's the question I would have for all of you. I don't want to see a kid hit. I've got a neighbor across the street that lets their kids run and they shoot out of their driveway and you can't see them come on. I actually stopped in the middle of the street and a kid drove his bicycle into the front of my car because he wasn't paying attention. That's how bad it is in that particular term. I'm bringing it to your attention because if somebody is going to get flattened by a cement truck or another kid speeding or something, yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. So
There's also a point in daylight, because like this, where if you're going east on that street on Hamlocker, you can't see if there's a kid or a car or anything going. So that's all the more reason that there needs to be more stop signs or more traffic related activity that covers that area.
That's of course to take a look at. I'm not sure what we can do, but we should certainly take a look at that.
we certainly would appreciate it.
Lots of support for it. That's,
Thank you.
thank you. 2D, S&M Partners.
So,
We just want to bring a quick update. Tom's here to answer any questions. As you know, we've been working together pretty good. We're making good strides. As far as the water line is concerned, we're waiting on one individual to sign the easement. And then everything else is ready to go. You're ready to put a shovel in the ground, correct?
We're ready, yeah.
So once they get that other easement signed, we're gonna see some pipe going in the ground. Roberta and I will both be there because since we're taking the pipe over after it's finished and tested, we want to see it as just a normal subdivision. So we'll be out there for that. Today, I talked to the underground department. We're going to get the bore under Vanderbrook Drive, hopefully sometime middle next week, in preparation for the gas. So our thought is we want to get the water out in front, we're going to go behind with the gas, and we're going to try to make this a smooth transaction. Okay. While we're here with the annexation, our city attorney just got the paperwork finished reviewing the annexation agreement. We are right now in a transition of making sure that Mr. Noby and SN Partners are happy with the annexation verbiage. So we decided to kind of put the brakes on this a little bit and make sure that they have enough time to review, and we want to make sure no one's rushed. So with that point, we're going to come back and revisit this one. Same thing with the hearing tonight before City Council. So
The annexation agreement or pre-annexation?
pre-annexation agreement.
They're not.
Correct. Or 25 foot off.
Anybody have any questions?
And I want to add a quick thing. They don't need an annexation or pre-annexation agreement to put the pipe in. We've approved their gas and water main plans a few months ago. So to connect to it, that's when that pre-annexation agreement needs to be signed.
Right,
So
right.
that's kind of where we're at, so.
So really, the only thing holding us up right now is finishing up on the easement. Then we should be ready to go.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Number 3, rezoning on Plaza Drive.
Okay, go ahead.
So the large paper that I passed out earlier shows the 2 sections that are wanting to be rezoned from B3 to multiple R5. He is wanting to put duplexes or apartments there. This is train of thought.
And he is Jay Hutch.
Jay Hutch, I apologize.
Yeah, with
Jay
Waterloo Commons. So I think what he wants to do is he wants to keep moving lots. And they've been sitting, this is the first that this is even coming out. This is just the very beginning. But I think with something like this, we want to know where your thoughts are on this. To transition, if the city would allow a transition from single family to multifamily.
On all this in Warren?
So this, I think it's all B3, isn't it?
It's all B3 right now.
Yes.
So
Both portions.
the 4 in the square, Jay kind of made it sound like more of a apartment style, some larger multifamily, and then like duplexes along the south of Plaza Drive. If it gets annexed to R5, it's free game. It goes by your density, your square footage of your lot, gives you X amount of units. So,
The south side of Plaza Drive, you've got residential right behind that. I'd have a hard time saying yes to that just for the people that live there now.
right.
Personally.
And again, right now it's B3. Right?
B3
now.
Yeah.
Which could be, you're right, it could be businesses, but
Yeah.
I will throw this out that I've learned a lot with Mr. John Pecker did a petition for a map amendment in Northwinds, and that was to change B3 to R3 or R2, and those neighbors came unglued. They said they'd rather have a business any day of the week than neighbors. So it's quite interesting how people come and go with that thought process. So
As an architect and a real estate developer that develops low-income housing for folks, you're going to get a lot of pushback to a multifamily housing, especially next to that brand new subdivision that's right there off Colmer. Those are big, respectable houses, and getting multifamily in there, unless this guy comes and he's got a firm plan and saying, I want to build this 4-family residence, I would strongly suggest
What is Colmer,
not approving it until he has something real.
what is Colmer zone? Is that R2 or R3?
let me double check real quick. Colmer's R2. Yep.
Yeah, anywhere fencing, family zone, next to R3.
In the city? Let me look real quick. Well, if you go to like Westview Acres, you go R3 to R5 to B2.
Yes.
Okay. But R2. I'm not seeing anything off the top of my head.
Right. There's no transition either R2 to.
You would normally transition R3 and then multifamily. Yeah. Let me look up by Dobbs. So Dobbs has, okay, here we go.
That first street's duplexes.
Yeah, so if you are on Warren Drive, instead of making a left to the DMV, you make the next left. So that's R5 across the road's R2, but not backyard neighbors. So you got B2, R5, R2.
Right.
Not the backyard neighbor.
They are not backyard neighbors.
Oh, I see.
R2. Yep, R2. Everything in that area until you get to the older parts, R2. And then like Evansville Avenue, the older part is R3.
Is this, so tonight are we just trying, this is a temperature check or?
This is a temperature check. Yeah.
I wouldn't be in favor of just flat giving an R5. If they got a plan or something that we could look at and consider conceptual or otherwise, instead of putting in a pretty good change in pace.
Big time.
Between what's there,
Yeah.
what's planned.
Could be something that just let's sink in, mull it over, and we can ask for a more specific plan. Come back later.
What kind of apartments is he thinking?
He didn't really.
He doesn't know that.
We got some initial thoughts from this group.
He doesn't know
I think that all three months is
60%
fine.
AMI or 80% AMI.
Some houses are being sold for $500,000.
Yeah, they're not gonna want.
I could see planning commission having a little bit of tough time answering some of the questions on the advisory report.
That's all of it.
Right.
Have you read
Anything else on that? Any comments on it? No? Number 4, comments? Adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Gary, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?